Hi guys, Fraser here. So today, I have an educational video for you all. What we're doing today is counting down my tips to gain muscle as a teenager easily. I feel as though I have a personal judgment on this, seeing as I went from this to this. Believe me, I know I'm not even slightly massive, but you know, I feel like I've come a long way. So I thought I could help you guys out in some way, shape or form. So let's say you're just starting the gym 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 or older. This is mainly for teenagers because this is my personal experience and I was a teenager as I've been doing this. I'm only 16 now. I don't even know if I look older. I've been told I have a very big baby face, so I don't really know. Certainly haven't been sold for any alcohol lately. Today I'm just going to share with you my tips on gaining muscle as a skinny teenager, or as a teenager as a whole. Even if you're not skinny, you've got good genetics. I'm not really sure where I sit on the genetic continuum. I feel like I've made decent gains. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So yeah, let's get into my tips. Right, so tip number one, the best one in my opinion, programming. Programming effectively changed my life. No lie, my life. Let me put this into perspective. First day at the gym, you get there thinking, I'm a beast, I'm gonna gain some muscle. Then you go there and you think, oh my god, what are all these pieces of equipment? Yes, I was in the exact same position. First day I tipped up to the gym, I was like, oh yeah, let me put 220s on a squat bar, bang, nearly died. What I'd suggest is finding yourself a program. You're more than likely to make double the gains if you're on a program than if you weren't. Say you were just going around doing machines and not really knowing what you're doing every day, versus being on a structured program, you're going to make twice the gains. Right, so a big no-no for this, the bro split. Don't do it, get it out of it. Never touch the bro split. Seriously, you take anything from this video. I appreciate I'm young, I don't really know much, however, I know that the bro split is booty. Much like many other YouTubers, I recommend a 3-day-a-week split at first. That could be push-pull legs if you wanted. That could be full body. I'd recommend full body as you're starting out, because then you're training each body part 3 times a week, which is quite a frequent amount. More frequency leads to more gains, in my humble opinion. You could do the push-pull leg split. The push-pull leg split is where you do chest, shoulders and triceps one day, back and biceps the next day, and then legs on the last day. This is a good split because you can still hit your whole body in 3 days a week. The reason I recommend not going to the gym as frequently when you first start out is because then you can progressively get more. So say you've been going to the gym, if you up that to 4 times a week, that will increase your weekly volume. This is known as progressive overload, which is now the second tip. Right, what is progressive overload? Essentially, it's where you create a greater training stimulus week in, week out. Month after month, year after year, decade after decade, century after century if you want. The way in which progressive overload can be formed is many ways. For instance, the most obvious one, upping the weight. Upping the weight by a minute fraction is still progress at the end of the day. Basically, when you're training, what you do is you create micro tears in your muscle. Say you're bench pressing, yeah? You use protein to then recover those micro tears to make them grow back bigger and stronger. So that means next time they need a greater training stimulus in order to grow bigger and stronger again. Otherwise it's just too easy for the muscles. Building on upping the weight, you also need to upgrade your reps. See, me personally, I focus on time under tension, so it doesn't really matter for me about the rep ranges. But for instance, if you're not training hard because you're a beginner, you don't necessarily need to be doing sets to failure every single time. You could maybe throw in like 1 set to failure each session. Still train hard, but train harder than last time, as Greg's set said. So say you're a beginner, you want to up the weight and then you want to up the reps you can do with that weight. So say you're benching 40 kilos for 10 reps, next week you want to try 40 kilos for 12 reps. Next week you want to try it for 14 reps. Next week you want to try it for 15 reps. Then, once you can do it for 15 reps, hopefully you should be able to up it to 42.5 kilos and do 10 reps of that. Pretty simple, right? Right, so put this into perspective. You've done all that, you've upped the weight, you've upped the reps, you can't quite do it. Do another set. Increasing the set increases the overall volume of the week, which means your muscles have had to work harder than they did before. This means that your muscles had to work harder than they did previously, creating a greater training stimulus. For anybody wondering, in terms of time under tension, you want to aim for 40 to 60 seconds in a set for maximum muscle growth. Any less and you're just leaving gains on the table, in my opinion, and what I've heard, and the studies I've read. Haven't really read any studies. Right, so the next big thing of trying to gain muscle as a skinny teenager is compound movements. Compound movements are essentially exercises that focus on loads of muscle groups at once. For example, the deadlift. The deadlift works the lat, traps, pretty much your whole back really. Also a lot of your leg, but it depends which style of deadlift you do, of course. Sumo or conventional. Sumo is the wider stance where you have your legs out and a narrower body. Conventional is where your legs are closer together. You're better off sticking to the basics, sticking to the compound movements. That way you'll be working loads of muscles at once, achieving more hypertrophy. Do not get injured. Practice the form. Form is key. Learning the form of the exercises is so crucial to not get injured and enjoy your training. Seriously, get into the habit of building up that form before anything, especially on these compound movements like deadlifts. I learnt the deadlift with awful technique, so I got stronger with that awful technique. Me being a 14, 15, 16-year-old, didn't want to have to take a step back to learn the deadlift form with good technique. Obviously taking that step back would reduce the weight, but I couldn't think ahead because I'm a stupid teenager and we don't know anything. Taking one step backwards would be 2 steps forward in the future. Take it from me. My hamstring got absolutely ruined on deadlifts and it's been iffy ever since. Right, so my next tip is to eat food. I know what you're thinking. He's not promoting bulking, is he? Well, look at me. I'm not exactly lean. Take it from me, I regret bulking so much because now I'm not as lean as I used to be. Back when I was doing my paper round and my football and my training at the same time. In terms of calories, what I recommend for teenagers is trying to find your calorie maintenance. Yeah, you can look at all these formulas online, but realistically they're not going to tell you the right thing. You can look at them somewhat for a general direction. I'll leave one in the description. If you're not gaining fat as a teenager, what you want to do really is just weigh yourself, eat more, weigh yourself, see if your weight changes. If it goes up, you're past your maintenance. I recommend being in a tiny deficit to make sure that you're feeling strong for every session so that you can push that progressive overload, as I was speaking about earlier. Yeah, there's many things you can do for eating calories and stuff, like weight gaining shakes. I did all that, and gotta be honest, they're not the healthiest thing in the world, and look where I've ended up now. In terms of protein for maximal muscle growth, you need 1 gram per pound of body weight of protein. Do you necessarily need that at the start? No. This is for why. It's expensive. Protein is very expensive. Unless you go to myprotein.com, it's very cheap there. Oh, sorry, don't mind me. Anyway, as I was saying, protein is very expensive. Like chicken, I pay £50 for a month and a half's worth of chicken, and I'm only 16. Luckily, I have parents who will help me out. Dad, Anna. However, most parents just don't want to commit to that in the early stages of your training career. I recommend just eating what you want and remaining normal, but trying to push that protein as much as you can. If you can't afford whey like this is clear whey from My Protein. Tastes great. If you can't afford that, that's absolutely fine. Just get some packet ham from the co-op, you know? Stuff like that. Easy protein that your mum and dad shouldn't mind buying. The next tip is to enjoy your training. If you don't enjoy your training, you're not going to want to train, you're not going to train, you're not going to make progress, then you're going to be sad and want to cry all your life. I know for some people it's really hard to enjoy training because it's just not what they like to do. Luckily for me, I took a liking to it, not sure why. However, you can still enjoy it. Just because some other people don't. For example, try going with a training partner. Luckily, I had my friend Sean with me, who's been training with me ever since to push me on harder. Say for example, one day Sean was going to the gym and I was like, oh, I can't really be bothered. He would be like, no, get your ass to the gym. So thank you, Sean. I know you're not even watching this because you don't like watching my videos, but thank you. If you take one thing from this video, actually no, it's 2 things because I've already said that to you. If you take 2 things from this video, take the fact, don't be embarrassed to go to the gym. Anyone who's been taking the mick out of you at school, just don't mind them. When I first started going to the gym, I was a very skinny kid, as you saw at the start of the video. People said to me some mean things. For example, I've got bigger arms than you, and I haven't even been to the gym. Gazelle, if you're watching this, you spurred me on. Thank you. And unfortunately, the likelihood is some people will take the mick. That's just how today's society is. Most people can't be happy for each other's successes, especially when you're 14, 15. When it gets to that stage, a lot of people are insecure. So just don't worry about it. Just train, don't post it on social media, don't be that guy. Unless you have an Instagram account dedicated to it, like I do, @FraserPB, make sure you follow it. Just don't do it, because then people won't be expecting it and they won't find it tedious that you've been going to the gym. That way, you can blow people's mind when they see your progress. Right, so the next tip is find the training style that works for you. Whether it's bodybuilding, powerlifting, CrossFit, strongman, you know, there's so many. Weightlifting, find the one that works for you. Once you've found that one that works for you, you will enjoy your training more. Once you've found your training style, you never know, you might excel in it. So overall, what's the take-home message from this video? 1. Training program. 2. Compound movements with good form. 3. Enjoy your food. Seriously, enjoy your food. Don't get into the whole bodybuilding chicken and rice diet. As you know, if you've seen my channel, subscribe by the way, I'm interested in anabolic recipes that taste great. I'm not interested in the whole chicken and rice, chicken and broccoli, tilapia, whatever it's called. I don't like that. That's not enjoyable for me, a 16-year-old with a massively sweet tooth. I'm sure you're probably the same, because we're of that age. Not everyone's as old as my dad and doesn't like anything sweet whatsoever. Make sure you're progressively overloading. I cannot stress this enough. Progressive overload is probably the top 3 things that are going to impact your gains. If you're not progressively overloading, you're not going to improve. I'm sorry, it's the truth. Progressively overload Seriously. Overall, just enjoy your training. Whatever style that is, whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing it, however you're doing it, please just enjoy it. Training's a great thing. I love training, it is my passion, and I don't know what I'd do without it. That's why the lockdown sucks and the situation in the world right now is really annoying because the gyms are shutting and people like me and you can hardly make progress. I'm very lucky to have a home gym like this, which is actually a very, very decent setup, and I'm very grateful for this. I appreciate a lot of you don't have that, and I'm so gutted for you, I really am. Because you guys are missing out on the best bits of life, in my opinion, training. Right, so that concludes my tips for skinny teenagers on how to build muscle. Thank you for watching. Take it easy, guys.